Circumference of a circle is what we're looking at in this video. It's split into three parts. We're first going to look at basic questions like this. How do you find the circumference of a circle? Then we're going to move on to questions like this, where we need to use the circumference to help us solve a question with perimeter. And then finally, using the circumference to help us solve a question where we've been asked to find the surface area of a cylinder. So to make my videos work, I'm going to do the example on the left, which is I do. You are then going to press pause and I've got the example on the right, which is you do. And at the bottom of the slide, you can see the type of example it is. So with this first question, we've been asked to find the circumference of a circle to two decimal places. Now the circumference of a circle has the formula of 2 pi r. So all we need to do is 2 times pi times the radius. And if you type that into your calculator, that'll be 2 times pi times 5. And to two decimal places, that's 31.42 centimeters. The circumference is just this area outside the circle, okay? So that's what we've just calculated. Not the area, the distance around the outside of the circle. So that's saying that the distance around the outside, this red bit, is 31.42. So hopefully you've pressed pause and had a got the example on the right. So the circumference here is again 2 pi r, so that's going to be 2 times pi times 3 this time. And to two decimal places, that's just going to be 18.85 centimeters. And now this one is slightly different. So although the formula is the same, 2 times pi times r, this is the diameter. That's 30, so the radius is going to be 15. So we can just do 2 times pi times 15. And that becomes 94.25 centimeters. And again, hopefully you've pressed pause and had a go at the question on the right. So the diameter is 8, the radius is 4, the circumference is 2 pi r, which is 2 times pi times 4, and that to two decimal places becomes 25.13. So here's some practice questions. Press pause and have a go now. Here's the answers, mark your work. Moving on, we've been asked to find the perimeter of the semicircle. So the perimeter is just the distance outside, so it'll be all of this. We know what the bottom is. The bottom is 12, so the only thing we need to figure out is what this bit here is. Now this bit here is just going to be the circumference. So the circumference is 2 pi r. However, this is half of a circle, so we're going to divide all this by 2. So that can then be simplified to pi r, okay, because it's a semicircle. So all we need to do is do pi times the radius. Now the radius here is going to be 6 because the diameter is 12. So if I do 6 times pi, in fact, yeah, that becomes 18.84955 ... And then on your calculator, you can just say, well, actually, now I know that, let me just draw that a little bit better. I now know that this distance from here to here is 18.84 ... And on your calculator, you can just use the answer button and you can just do answer plus 12 because we still need to add the 12 at the bottom to get the perimeter. And if you just add 12 to that, to two decimal places, that becomes 30.85 centimeters. And again, hopefully you've pressed pause and had got the example on the right. So the circumference here is 2 pi r. Because it's a semicircle, we're going to half it, so that becomes pi r. So pi times the radius here is 10. So that's just going to be 10 pi. We can leave that as 10 pi in fact here. And now, if you know that from here to here, that is 10 pi. And we know the bottom, this bit here is going to be 10 as well. So we're going to be, the answer is going to be 10. Let me show you that, 10 pi plus 10 plus 10. So if I do that on my calculator, 10 pi plus 10 plus 10, that becomes 51.42 centimeters. And in fact, I recommend leaving it here as 10 pi. It just makes your life a bit easier. And then in the end, you can do that. And now moving on, this looks a little bit more trickier, but we've been told we have a semicircle and a rectangle. So this bit here is a semicircle, this bit here is a rectangle. So to get all the sides, if it's a rectangle, this will also be 4 centimeters, just like the other side. So the only bit we're missing is that bit there, and that is a semicircle. So, well, what is the radius or the diameter of the semicircle? Well, it's going to be the same as this. So we know that this length here is 5. So we can say that the circumference of the semicircle, which is 2 pi r divided by 2, which is pi r, is just going to be pi times the radius, which is 2.5 this time. So that is going to be 2.5 pi. So we know that this bit here is 2.5 pi. So that's from here to here. Now I just add all the sides together. So my final answer is going to be 2.5 pi plus 4 plus 5 plus 4. And if I type that into my calculator, so that will be 2.5 pi plus 4 plus 4 plus 5, and that gives me to 2 decimal places 20.85 centimeters. And again, hopefully you've pressed pause and had a correct example on the right, 6. So that means that the circumference from here to here, so that's going to be 2 pi r divided by 2 because it's a semicircle. That's pi r, which is 5 pi. So that here is 5 pi. Now just add all of that together. So that'll be 5 pi plus 6 plus 6 plus 10. And that is 5 pi plus 6 plus 6 plus 10. That gives us 37.71 centimeters. So here's some practice questions. Press pause now and have a go. Here are the answers. Mark your work. And moving on, we're now going to look at surface area of a cylinder. Now to find the surface area, you look at all the surfaces. So in a cylinder, you have this top surface, you have this bottom surface, and then you also have this bit here. Okay, and now to visualize this easily, we can roll this out. So for example, in a question, you'll be given something like this. You have a cylinder, you have the height, and you have the diameter. Now if you roll this out, it will look like this. So to find the area of this, you just do pi r squared. To find the area of this, you just do pi r squared. And you have the radius, because that's just going to be half of that, which is 4. However, the only bit that's a bit tricky is with this rectangle, you just have the height, which is 10. Now you might be wondering, well, how do I know what this bit here is? How do I know what the width of the rectangle is? Now the width of the rectangle is the same as the circumference of the circle. So if I was to roll out this circle, it would be the same length. So if you can find the circumference of the circle, that is what the width is. That's the only tricky bit in this question, that you have to calculate the circumference to get the width of the rectangle. So just to remind ourselves, to find the area of this, we just do pi r squared, which will be pi times 4 squared, because I've just halved the radius here. To find the area of this, we will just do pi times 4 squared as well. And now to find the area of this, it will be 10 times the width. But the width is going to be the circumference of the circle. So that's going to be 10 times 2 pi r, because that's the circumference of the circle. Okay, and I'm just going to use my highlighter to make that crystal clear for us. So this length, in fact, let me just use a slightly bigger color, slightly bigger one and a different color. So this here is the same as rolling it out into this here. Okay, that is crucial. And that is how you find that area. So now moving on, we've got a question here. We've been asked to find the surface area of the cylinder. So we can find the top and the bottom. Those are the easiest to do. So if I do the top and the bottom, so I can just say the top and bottom. So that will be the circles. So that's just going to be area is pi r squared. And I can just double my answer at the end because there's 2 of them. So that's pi times 6 squared, which is 36. So that'll be 36 pi. And then I can times that by 2. So it'll be 2 times 36 pi because there's 2 circles. Okay, so 36 pi is just one of them. Because we've got 2, we can double that. That becomes 72 pi. So now I've found the surface area of the circles, but what's missing is this bit here. So that is going to be the rectangle. So I can just call it the rectangle. And that is going to be 10. The area is going to be 10 times the width, which is the circumference, remember. So that's 10 times 2 times pi times the radius, which is 6. So if I do that now, that would be 12 times 10, which is, 12 times 10, which is 120 pi. So now the total area, now we know that the circles are 72, and we know this rectangle is 120. We can just add that together. So that'll be 120 pi plus 72 pi. And if I type that in my calculator, we have 120 pi plus 72 pi, and then to 2 decimal places, that's 603.19. Now careful here, the units are centimeters squared because we're working with area. So the only tricky bit is that with a rectangle, you need to know that the width of the rectangle, and if I just head back, the width of this rectangle is the circumference of this circle because that's what it rolls out to. So hopefully you've pressed pause and had a correct example on the right. So again, with the circle, so we can say top and bottom. So that area is going to be pi r squared, which is going to be 9 squared, which is 81 pi. Now there's 2 of these circles at the top and bottom, so I'm just going to do 81 pi times 2, which is 162 pi. So that's the 2 circles done. Now all I need is the rectangle. Now with the rectangle, it's just base times height, so the area is just going to be height times width, and we know that the width is just the circumference of the circle, which is 2 times pi times r, which is 18 times 5, which is 90 pi. And finally, we just add all that together. So 162 plus 162 pi plus 90 pi, and that gives us 7911.68 centimeters squared. So here's some practice questions. Press pause and have a go. Here are the answers. Mark your work. Now, if you would like some more practice on this, I've got a worksheet linked down in the comments below over on my website. And if you find this video useful, I've got loads of other content like this. Do check it out.